Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay can hear you loud and clear on Rally Tuesday.
Rally Tuesday. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we could take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay. I've been a top set performance coach since June of 2023. Stop shouting. All right, Rich, talk quieter. No problem. Been a top set performance coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 13 years and in the futures markets for the past 6, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for 2 years. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experience, some knowledge, and hopefully help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. You are all our chat. Thank you for joining us every day. Let us know how you did today. Were you up on the day, down on the day? Maybe you stayed flat for the day. Uh, Anything that you learned from the day? I had a pretty decent day. We'll talk about it. Getting long the equities. But let us know how you did in the chat. Linus Rain says up. I know you had an equity trade on. I think Rich might have just been joking, but Port City, we appreciate you. Yeah, let us know how you did in the chat, and we'll go through these markets. So we did have some numbers out this morning. We had inflation data. CPI came in at 2.3%. Forecast was 2.4. Previous was 2.4. CPI month over month came in at 0.2. Forecast was 0.3. Previous was 0.1. So inflation coming down just a little bit. And that was it as far as the planned headlines go. We do have PPI still later in the week on Thursday, as well as jobless claims. That is every Thursday. Outside of that, we had the president, Saudi, U.S. Saudi
Investment Forum.
Investment Forum. There we go. U.S. Saudi Investment Forum. We had the audio playing during the morning show during Topstep TV. I don't know that the markets were really responding to anything. It seems like and sounded like a lot of investment in tech, and pretty much every tech CEO for all of the major tech companies that we have in the world was at the forum as well. Um, Maybe that's what he meant by you should go buy stocks now. I think he said it again that the market is going to go up at some point today, and it did. But more investment coming into tech. Coach Paul, any other news we want to report on?
Nothing else. Just the inflation number was pretty positive. But the bonds really didn't reflect that. So I found that very interesting. You would have thought the bonds would have rallied more, but sure helped the stocks. So
Yes.
that's about it.
I think some stocks are back to green on the year. I know at some point, at one point during the sell off, we talked about, hey, is 2025 going to be a red year? We're almost halfway through the year, about 5 months through the year right now. And we're back to pretty much even on some stocks. So, uh, still a lot of time left. I know some traders, when I said that earlier on, said it's just the first quarter. You can't talk about that. And you might be right, right? Still a lot of time left in the year. And when we said it earlier was when do we start asking the question about the year being red? I think we've seen a lot of the negative news that we've had, especially with the tariffs. Maybe we're making deals now. Markets can continue to rally. I would love a green year for 2025. So let's keep going this way. We got some traders in the chat. Caliborn Sicilian, two trades, 900 on your XFA. Nice. Dan Trader positive. The world is yours. 345 in an XFA. When can we do in Spanish? Maybe we'll talk to Coach Ray about doing a Spanish class. Uh, MS, grab some AM peanuts. Yes, it's pretty low stress. Yes, it is. Shout out to Andrew, our moderator, helping us run this segment every day. Has an XFA eligible for a payout after today. Just completed 5 days of $200. Kung Fu got chopped up. Rich break even up 1,505 combines for Andre. Nahi passed an XFA. Deshaun about $1,000 in a 50K combine. I was driving, so couldn't get my $1,500 goal. I'm happy you didn't hit that goal, Deshaun. I'm not going to be honest. Um, kind of happy you didn't hit that goal, right? Because that goal is the monetary focus goal of let me pass a combine in 2 days. So it's going to take a little longer, but I think that's okay. Right. So shout out to all our traders joining here today. All right, let's talk about these markets. Coach, we got 35 different markets we could trade with top step accounts. And today, to the downside, we had the Nikkei down 1.12%, corn down 1.23%, and soybean meal, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, at 1.51%. To the upside, we had micro Bitcoin futures up 2.88%, heating oil up 2.93%, and soybean oil, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, at 3.47%. To talk about our big four, we had crude oil up 2.79%, the S&P up 0.61%, gold up 0.83%, and the Nasdaq up 1.45% to round out our big four. I'm on the S&P here. Let's go out to a daily chart because some interesting stuff happening on this daily here. What are we looking at here, Coach Ball?
Well, we closed above the 200. First time since what, February?
Since March 3rd. Since March
Okay.
3rd.
20 is about to cross the 50, as we've been talking. This very positive construction wouldn't take much to rally to the old highs in a hurry. Um, I would call that a head and shoulders. That's just me. That's a very positive looking chart to me. How about you, coach?
Yeah, looking pretty positive as well. And like we've been saying, as long as the news is good, and so far we've been getting good news. We got good inflation data. It seems like we're making a deal. I'm bullish this market, at least up to this 200 moving average. Now the market still has to, make some decisions about this. We closed above it for the first time, so now we see if it holds. The one thing I'm looking at on the daily, we talked about this during the opening call as well, is this high volume candle from March 4th. So where we're kind of trading back into and accepting back inside now. We can see the upper end of that candle is 59.37. So just kind of seeing here, you said head and shoulders, coach. The neckline would probably be the lower end of this candle right here. But yeah, this looks pretty good. We are just over 5% off the all-time high. It sounds crazy, but we we keep going this way. We could be talking about all-time highs next week.
Yeah, anything can happen.
Anything, anything
I
can
mean,
happen.
and we could make new lows. We don't know,
Yes,
but
we could.
this is the trend.
Trend is
And
up for now.
yeah,
All right. Let's go down to a shorter time frame. Let's take a look at the 30-minute. Last night, uh, kind of a quiet
nice.
session last night. Go ahead, coach.
Yeah, we leaked lower all night. Um, on very slight volume after yesterday's rally. Um, but I mean, that was almost. I actually was short and got long.
Nice.
um, when I woke up, but if you notice that break we had selling, that's profit taking, buoyant market close. Um, but the structure, first half an hour, we broke out of it, couldn't make a new high. Um,
Decent
and
short
just
last night.
yeah, it meandered lower. But when the buying came in,
Didn't exactly get a 2 to 1, but you got about 20 points.
yeah,
Pretty nice trade.
yeah, without much risk,
Yep.
it was very slow, which to me was very bullish
Yeah.
because
I
you're
agree.
not. I mean, there was nothing, no big tweet to change things. No, I mean, no reason or no news that forced it. But when New York started opening, what happened?
Buyers stepped in and continued to buy. We're going to go down to a shorter time frame here. Take a look at the 3 minute. What I really liked about the price action yesterday, and slow markets was slow last night. I was on with Dakota, and we were kind of grasping at straws to really find anything to trade. because by the time we got on, we were sitting in this consolidation. But I do like that we held the high of this candle here, right? This was we made a deal or deal or no deal, whatever we decided to call it. So this morning we had CPI, and I'll go down to a 3 minute chart from here. We'll mark out the CPI candle. It's this one here. And then we had the New York session open, which is basically we tested the low of that CPI candle and bounced from there. So uh, this was the trade I took today, the long off of this opening range break, right? This lower end of the CPI candle. We tested it on in the 3 minute opening range. Immediately after, coach, we had that urgency that we talked about. The next 3 minute candle is closing outside of that opening range. VWAP leaving as well. And just this was you hate to ever say easy, but this was one of the clearer examples of this trade that we've seen in a little while in the equities, right? Over the past couple of days, they've been kind of choppy. I think I've heard Hogue say, the opening range trade in the equities hasn't been great. But we were talking in the green room, Coach Paul, about this opening range specifically. What do you see here in this opening range that kind of lets you or makes you a little bit more assertive in taking this trade when it breaks out?
Well, the urgency. Two things. We've been rallying. We were over the 200 moving average. The Nasdaq was. What was really encouraging was that was the highest volume was selling in that 3 minute.
Yep.
And then when that selling couldn't change anything, and VWAP left the range immediately. That's a rare bird. Well, that's the one that okay, that's that's a lazy fastball hanging with bases loaded.
Right.
You got to swing. That doesn't mean you're going to hit a grand slam or you're even going to hit it, but you have to take it.
Yep.
And so it were like you said, you don't. I will never say it was easy, but it was well defined trade. I mean, that goes in the dictionary next to opening range breakouts.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just reading the chat. Shout out to the traders that we have in here. Psalm 91, $7,800 payout received. Leaders
Right.
only, back in 4 new funded accounts, focusing on risk management. Uh, it's great to hear. Shout out to Francis Green that we had on earlier, who was on with Lisa, who's a number two trader on the leaderboard right now, and said that what she heard from Francis Green's sessions, right, on his YouTube page. One, helped introduce her to Topstep, but then two, she kind of goes back to his videos and watches them all the time when she's going through a rough patch in her trading. And sometimes people, they say, "Oh, these guys they coach, but can they trade?" I think that's a perfect example. I mean, I can trade as well. Coach Paul can too, but sometimes somebody's going to take the information that you give and do their own thing with it. So hopefully that's what's happening here, right? You guys are taking what we give you in these sessions and implementing it with your own trading. And if you get to the point where you're taking payouts or whatever it is, remember that you did that work. Uh, but yeah, really nice opening range breakout trade here, Coach. Not really too much to talk about. What was really nice about this, and I cut myself off. So I took this with a couple of lots just so I could manage the position on the way up. Um, at this point of it, I think I took about 35 points on most of the position, held a runner, and just stopped out. And I stopped trading for the rest of the day. Uh, there was still maybe some opportunity to be squeezed out of this, but if we look at what price action did once we had that initial push, VWAP started to flatten out a little bit. And for me, I know if I try to continue trading this because I had a good start to the day, when price action gets like this, I'll usually give some of the profits back. So at this point, let's go get a haircut, go grab some lunch, get away from the desk, and just you know
Your
preserve the
job was
capital.
done.
Job was done. Job was done for the day, right? So no need to continue to sit here.
Well, good question from Mo. Coach, the sell-off in equities at the close, does that indicate anything to you? Well, to me, it indicates um, that at the end of the day, the short-term traders were long and got out. That's what I see. That was not it was on lighter volume. But after a run up like that, you can expect some counter move with short-term traders evening up before the close. How about you, coach?
Yeah, I think it just means maybe some profit taking. We had, pretty much upside move the rest of the day. I'm not surprised to see the S&P kind of settle around 5,900, that major psych level. I know SPX is a little bit lower than this right now, but I think just some profit taking. We really didn't find any newer buyers that were ready to continue to push this higher. So what this looks like to me is maybe some weaker hands that were hoping the market was going to keep going up had to close their positions by the end of the day.
Chauncey, wasn't that the highest volume of the day? Yes, and it's usually on the open and the close.
Yep.
But if you see that volume and that, look what the volume versus the range. So it was evening up. That's why I mean there's big bids and offers.
Yep.
That's a standard. If that came in the middle of the day, that would be that would be a different story.
Yeah. Uh, Port City says, I've seen this so much, it's hard to trade higher high to bait longs and then slam short. Yeah. So the thing is, this is a timing thing, right? Uh, Where you hear a lot of traders say, don't short this. This is a very strong market. But at some point, I kind of wanted to stop buying this as well. But if we think about, you just look at what these days normally look like and you put the puzzle together, I don't know the numbers, but I would say a high percentage of the time where we see this reversal happens in power, like the last 10 minutes of power hour, right? Where it's okay, we couldn't go any higher. We might have had some longs in here, and more than we need to sell this because it's a short, we just need to get out of that position. But then if you think, why does it happen at the end of the day? Because those day traders need to close their trades before the market closes, right? If they're day traders. So it's a hard short to take because you have to be so patient. Where a couple of times it's going to look like a good move, but really a lot of that follow through doesn't happen until the last 10 minutes or so. All right. Anything else? We Let's take a look at the Nasdaq really quick because the Nasdaq coach was a little bit different, and it was already above the 200 moving average on the daily when we started today.
Yeah, it's the stronger of the two, which makes sense. Boy, that's just one big day away from all-time highs.
Yep. Yeah, it's 5%,
So
6%. It could happen.
let's put a trend line from the all-time high to those highs, the second highs. Yeah,
I like that.
yeah, that's the target, um, at the least. Um, 20s crossing the 50. I mean, we've been saying this for, I feel like I'm a parrot now. It's same thing. It's very positive.
Yeah.
And if you look at the volume isn't huge. This is
No,
normal volume.
normal. Yep. Which is
So
good.
yeah, it's bullish. I mean, it's just doing what the stocks do.
Right.
Leaks up. There's no urgency to sell it.
Yeah, 100%. What I do like is that today we kind of came down and checked. We didn't check exactly the 200 moving average, but we came down, showed that we were going to use it as a support. We talked about this 21,000 level yesterday. And then looking to the left, and I talked about this during the opening call, but we have, again, this highest volume on the daily, just kind of this is where we're trading it now. Right? The low of that candle, this was January 7th. It's a little bit different on the S&P and the Nasdaq. But this January 27th candle on the Nasdaq, we accepted back inside of it. The target was 50% of this here. But one thing I I posted this on X, but we said it during the opening call as well. Part of the reason I stopped looking to trade this market when we were up at the highs is because the Nasdaq, once we got up to around 20,000, 21,300, was pretty close to a daily ATR. I had asked Hogue a question this morning. I said, "How directional do you think we're going to get today?" Because I want to measure potential targets to the upside. And what I was using was, if we went with the idea that the low of the day was already in by the time we were doing the opening call, right? We were opening right below 21,000. If the low of the day was already in and we measure from that low and one daily ATR to the upside, that would be around 21,400. I just shaved a little bit off and said, target is 21,300. And that's kind of where we consolidated. So once we get up there, the reason I kind of step away is because if we've already done a daily range, how much potential is there really left in the day if the market has already spent that range, right? So am I trying to force something to happen that on a day that's kind of just par for the course, you know, did this really have the potential to be a 800 point Nasdaq day? I don't think there was enough catalyst in the day to get that, right? So once that daily ATR is spent, unless there's a catalyst, you know, a higher likelihood that we range. Got anything else, coach?
No, I mean, like I said, it's getting redundant.
Yep.
We're back to normal in stocks for now. Anything can change. This is not investment advice, but look, that's the structure of the market at this moment.
All right. Let's get over to gold then. We had gold on the daily, kind of in limbo right here.
Kind of in limbo, and with stocks starting to catch a bid, liquidation at high volume, all-time high. Um, it's starting to look like a double top here. Under the 20-day moving average, the 50 still holding, but it's rising. And, the 20 is starting to flatten out. And for the 20 to start flatten out, that means you're going sideways. If you're going sideways, you're losing momentum.
Yep.
You're losing momentum off of all-time highs. It could be it could be a part where we start seeing liquidation. Um, what is it? And liquidation would be longs because we're off. We're not. We're a couple percent from all-time highs. So that neckline, we're just sitting on it. I would have. I mean, if I was long, I would have wanted to see a better bounce than that. So starting to turn, but it hasn't yet. 50 will be when's the last time we settled under the 50?
Settled under. Settled under was January 7th.
So,
January 7th. Last time we tested the 50 was April 9th. April
and
9th.
that was April 9th. That date comes back. Um, Also, that was a quick, sharp correction that immediately shot up.
Yep.
This is different. We're spending what, almost 3 weeks underneath the all-time high. So the urgency is starting to end. Um, you know, if I was an option trader, and I am, I'd be shorting call spreads.
Oh. Oh, let's take a look at the 30-minute in gold. Pretty
Yeah, it was a slow day.
uneventful day. I did take a long during slow markets last night. Off of this here, right? Where we had it was pretty uneventful. We had the 30-minute opening range. VWAP never left the range. So looking for opportunities to fade the extremes, right? Fade any extensions. Didn't take this short, but once we got this reversal here, is where I started to get long because we closed outside and risking the low of here. Low of this range here, 32.20s. Just a J trade on a 30-minute chart. presented a pretty good opportunity, and we can see the market kind of respected this level when it came back down here, tested it again. But if you saw the gold long I took during slow markets last night, that was why. And target was 50% of this candle here because it's huge selling candle. This was we made a deal, so I'm looking at 50% of this, and then if this holds, then the upper extreme. But I took most of the position off here.
Yeah, interesting that too is it was a pretty small range in gold.
Yep,
Um, it's once again slowing down. I think the
sure.
next couple of days here is going to be very important for gold longs.
Yes, it is. Brad has a question. When you get to gold, I trade 2 minute time frame, huge spike in volume at 10:34 Central Time. How would you trade that? RTH high at that time and huge setup for a J trade. So 10:34, that's
On a
11:34.
2 minute chart,
Yeah, 2 minute chart right here. Okay. So it was RTH high at the time. How would you trade this? So that we get to see this like this. And let's say you're going with and Brad said it, right? Huge potential setup for a J trade. So let's say by default, this is high volume and you're looking at this as potential for a reversal. What are you seeing here, coach? If you see this picture in front of you,
on the buy side there,
let me move
by my
this
head.
over. Yeah, let me move it
There
over
you
so we
go.
can actually see the volume. There we go.
All right. I'm looking for a failure.
Okay.
My idea would be to frame that out, mark out the low, close below that, and look for a sell. That's the way I look at it. This buying, if it's exhausted, it shouldn't, if it's good, it shouldn't break the low of that candle.
Right.
Um, was that the high of the day also?
So it wasn't the high of the day. The high of the
Yeah.
day at that point was a little bit higher. So this was high for regular trading hours.
All right. So wasn't the high of the day. I take a little less out of it, but I'm still going to look to trade it. Because that's almost triple volume.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so that's I'm frame it out and sell a close under the low.
Yeah. I think and we never really got that close, right? I think the
Yep.
one thing, and like you said, coach, was it the high of the day? Sometimes we don't ask that question, right? In the equities, we're not looking at a high of the day. We might be looking at high of the regular trading hours, but gold, because it is more of a 24/7 market, you kind of have to put that whole picture um, together. And we did trade higher than one. We traded higher than that volume, but we also traded higher price wise than that as well. But yeah, same thing that you just said, right? Frame out that candle. If we close below the low, then take it. If you preempt this trade, where you say, "Hey, I think that could be the high," your conservative price target has to be the low of that candle, and then you got to ask yourself whether or not it's worth taking it.
Yeah. And also remember, by definition, a J trade is an exhaustion trade. So at the least, it has to close below that. At the very least.
Correct.
So it didn't. So I- if I wasn't in the market at that time, well, there you go. When it does, but there was no urgency to that. But
Yeah.
it did collapse.
Yeah. I mean, if you were willing to wait an hour and a half, it did it. So there was about a 1-to-1 trade there, but you had to wait. But this close, right? You can see even so much after, it's an hour and a half after, close below, and then the trade plays out. But I don't know if I
Yeah.
would have been looking for that opportunity at that point.
Yeah. And another thing, what to me for an exhaustion, it's got to happen within, I'd say 4 to 5 candles. If not, it's losing the whole definition of urgency.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. All right. Coach Paul, when did you start implementing two ATR stops in your trade plan? I started using it with lower leverage. I noticed my win rate has increased. Mentally, the drawdown is manageable as well. Thanks. That's from Psalm 91.
Boy, long time ago. Um, but probably at least 2000, so 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And the reason why I used to put in stops that were really tight, I'm like, it's either going to go or it's not. And well, I took a lot of small losses. I didn't take, I got, ch- died a death of 1,000 cuts. Um, I started working, I had a CTA and I had a defined risk. I also worked with some of the turtles from Richard Dennis's turtles that I knew, and they introduced me to the ATR. Um, and started playing with it and looked at some of the rules, and it really made sense to me that it's the two ATRs is an organic sense of what the market's moving like. I only wanted to lose 100, but realistically, there was more risk than that. So it's fitting into the market's vibe. Big word these days, so I'm gonna throw that out. Um,
Hanging with your grandson.
hanging with my grandson. So vibration. I've also done GAN work. Um, so I didn't come to it easy, but I like it because it gives me enough room to put a trade on and not get ticked out. And because that would send me into a tailspin. Like, oh, I got to get in now. And then you make 10 trades and get ticked out and you quit and it goes. If I've been there. So a lot of professional money managers use the average true range, whether it's 1.5, 2, sometimes they'll use 4. Um, but there's a lot of work on it if you Google it, but it truly is a good place to take good risk. Too tight, it's just like the three the three bears. Too loose, not so good. Too tight, not so good. Two for a for day trading, it fits.
So mapping out a trade here, because Jen and John asked, can we go over stop placement? Gave the entry on his trade, and said that I got stopped out, and it's frustrating. I'm just mapping this out here, right? Going with Coach Paul's 2 ATR suggestion, I'm looking at a 3 minute chart. Your entry was at 21,287 for a long. You said you got long on a pullback. My my response to that is maybe wait for a a confirmed pullback, right? If we look at this as a pullback from the high, that was about, you're entering about 13 points from the high. I don't know if that's really a pullback. Anytime I'm looking for a pullback in the Nasdaq to get in a trend, I'm usually looking for about 50 points, right? So maybe there's something there that you can do to adjust how you measure pullbacks. But even so, right, we're not going to get perfect entries. Let's say you did get in at 287 and you use Coach Paul's 2 ATR suggestion. Your stop was right here. Never got hit. You didn't get a 2 to 1 either, but had a trade that was 47 points in your favor in about an hour. Uh, so, if you look at this and you say 40 points is way too much to risk, I'm gonna say don't even trade micros, trade the S&P. And yeah, 50-point pullbacks is what I'm normally looking at. And I mean, here, what is a confirmed pullback? This is, to me, it's not 17 points, right? 17 points is not a pullback. 17 points is me hoping that a trade didn't go without me. This pullback here, since the regular trading hours, let's measure them. This pullback here is 36 points, but look where we pulled back to VWAP. That's a confirmed pullback. This pullback here, about 30-ish points, it's iffy. This pullback here, 60 points, right? So right around that 50. Now I'm starting to look for entries. I'm not looking for entries in here, right? This pullback here, at this point in the day, probably not enough for me to take. And we made this high above 21,300. What was the pullback? About exactly 50 points, right? That's your pullback there, and then go from there. Uh, Usually, I'm going to start once a market starts to trend. I'm looking at pullbacks from major levels, right? So 21,200, 21,300, maybe the 50s, right? This here, where did this happen? 21,250 was right above us. Buyers couldn't push into 250. What did we do? We get a 60-point pullback, 50, 60. It's the Nasdaq, so it's not going to be perfect. I'm not buying it just because it pulled back from this level 3 points. This is the Nasdaq we're talking about, right? So you got to give it some space. Not always going to be like that either. This is on average range day. Remember, today was an average range day, right? If it was April 9th, a 50-point pullback was, you know, the spread in the Nasdaq. So check that ATR.
Hey, that going back to the question, that's really important when we talk about ATRs. I mean, just a month ago, two ATRs was probably 300 points.
Yep.
So when you realize it and you start sizing up, it keeps it really is focused on your risk management. Um, at one point, if it's too much, it's too expensive. It's like going to a poker game and somebody, all in, the next person doubles it. You're, yeah, that's too rich for me. I can't play this game.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to admit that, right? This trade is too expensive for me to take. It's better than forcing it and then realizing that you couldn't afford it. Uh, and Brad had asked the question: if I'm using 50 points on the Nasdaq, what am I looking at in the S&P? On an average range day, it's usually like 10 to 14 points. That average pullback. That's enough for me to say if this trend is going to continue, that's enough of a pullback. Because then look at what happens, right? If I buy it here, I have to bake in a 16-point drawdown before the market goes in my favor. But if I buy it here at the lower end, maybe I'm not going to get the low tick, but it pulls back, kind of bases a little bit, and then I use Coach Paul's 2 ATR, then my stop is so far out of the way that it makes sense, right? So better. This is the conversation I'm having right now about these pullbacks is about demanding better trade location on your trades instead of just kind of jumping in. Um, put your order where your stop loss should be, right? A long-winded way to say that. Long-winded way to say that. All right, crude oil, one of our bigger percentage movers on the day today. 30-minute chart.
Well,
Get out of here.
oh,
Pop-up messages. All right, here we go. Crude oil, 30-minute chart, coach.
just quickly, Janine, John, yes, the ATR is applicable on all time frames.
Yep. All right, so crude doesn't start until London wakes up. So why don't we just cut out all of this nonsense over
I
here?
couldn't agree more.
Crude doesn't start. We don't. We know when. We know who's buying crude. It's our friends in London. So here's our open. We're gonna look at that instead.
Wow,
They bought it.
they bought it and they didn't make it easy. Um, well, actually, they didn't break the lows of the night. Let's look. Let's do them both. Now we were taught that I was friendly to the crude.
So you were, yeah.
Um, and it's over the 20, it's over the 50, it's trending. The If the economy's coming back, or I don't want to use too many economic terms, with stocks rallying, it's an indication that there's the world economy is not going to fall apart.
Yeah.
That would keep the demand for crude oil, which is the lifeblood blood of the global economy. Um, and it was still, when we talked about it, it was cheap. It's at the bottom of the longer term sideways range. We've had what, 4 days in a row of buying coming into that. We got up to the 50, got above the 20. This is starting. I mean, it's starting to look like it wants to go to the 200. This is all on light volume, comparatively average to light volume. Um, so as we look last night, Asia once again didn't have any urgency, but we saw that London did, and they passed the book. And to the U.S., they said we got to buy more. I found that interesting with this Saudi investment. That it was a big move. I don't think that did it justice, considering that um, yesterday's break was pretty dramatic. We go right back up to those highs. It's really starting to turn. Um, I think the shorts are starting to feel a little bit of pain. I think tomorrow we could do it again. Just that was buying all day. When we had perfect J trade too on the half hour. So
Yeah, this one here.
there was two of them. There was that one, right?
Yep.
And that was a better one. And then we had another one. That's
This
what I'm
one.
saying. There was,
Yeah.
um,
High
but both of
volume.
them, didn't. It was interesting. They didn't make the lows of the day. So can we define that as profit taking
Yeah.
or just
Yeah, we
natural
could.
sell side action? Like,
Someone
okay,
trying to sell it and just not not able to push it lower. Yeah.
yeah, and remember, in commodities, it's much more balanced than equities. There's end users and there's producers. It's a much truer economic market. So the bottom line is that market is starting to pick up steam to the upside. I'm kind of friendly to it. Anything you see?
No, you've been saying that. Friendly to crude oil. I was kind of echoing that sentiment this morning during the opening call. We closed above yesterday's high. I'm also looking at just going back a couple of days, looking at this high volume here, closed above that as well. Uh, is there some indecision around this 50-day moving average? Maybe, but it looks like we're just on the way to that 200, which is up at 68. Which, how crude moves, we could be there tomorrow.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the shorts it could be feeling some pain here,
Yep.
or some, okay, not pain, but all right, because as it goes up, even if it goes up slow, they're gonna it starts to be, we've all been caught in in a trade like that.
Yep.
It starts leaking, doesn't
Yeah.
stop.
Just please stop.
And the more you say please stop
Yep.
and not get out, the higher it's going to go.
Yep.
So maybe I'm having a triggered emotion here, but that's what the crude feels
Shared
like. Like
experience. Shared experience.
shared
We've all been there before.
experience. We've all been there. Like I said, that's when you start praying.
Yep.
And I told you that story many times, because when you're praying, God's on the other side and he ain't letting you out. So take the hint.
Get out. This is will be my third time sharing this. Probably my last one, but I really like the quote. Find yourself on the wrong train. Just get off at the next stop. Less expensive, right? So admit when you're wrong. Get off the train. Focus on getting back on the right one. Coach Paul, did you work with Jerry Parker? He was a turtle from back in the day. Great guy.
No, I never. Jerry Parker wasn't in Chicago. He was in Texas. A great guy. He's still trading. He still does very well. One of the original turtles. Um, no, but I follow him. Um, great, great trader. Shares a lot of knowledge. Um, but there was a guy named maybe some of you guys, Tommy Willis, was Richard Dennis's best friend. I think most of these guys who were at the Mid America Commodity Exchange where Richard started. Um, so there was a few of them, but yeah, Jerry Parker is very successful, very good trend trader, and he's very active on social media. Or he was. I don't really follow social media um, that much. I'll pander every now and again, but great guy, very successful as much as a lot of the turtles were. And by the way, that's where the ATR, like I said, tough part with those guys is following the rules. It's very common. Like some of the guys had to drop out because they wouldn't take the risk, which is kind of crazy because Richard Dennis pushed. He was very he turned what was it, $4,000 into 100 million in 5 years, something crazy like that. But he really pushed taking risk. Um, so yeah, great story, great guy.
Got a comment from Nacho Libre. You two coaches do a lot of talking, but no action when the market is open. I can show you my trades that I took. Give me 1 second. Let me pull those up for you. I made about $1,500 today trading the S&P in a personal account. Let me see if I can share it just for you, Nacho Libre. Very productive comment you made. Well, thank you for your contributions to the conversation. Any other markets you want to talk about, Coach Paul?
Um, yeah, let's look at Bitcoin. One other thing, Nacho, this is a review. Hint.
Markets closed. All right. What are we looking at here? Micro Bitcoin, Coach Paul. Talked about this one yet.
Uh, Onward and upward. Um, I think we're gonna make contract highs pretty soon. This kind of looks like like the stocks, like we talked before. It almost looks like Nasdaq. Um, but yesterday we almost have an inside day, and the breaks are very subtle. This market is just leaking up. There's no. We did have a J trade on the bottom there.
The daily, oh, this here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did I not swing trade that? What I'm asking myself right now.
But bottom line, it's very friendly, leaking higher, and nothing much to stand in the way. So I really like if we put the 200 and the 20 on there.
Daily?
Yep, that's very friendly. What is the all-time high? And this is all done on light volume. Yeah.
Everything. All time high. We're about 7% away.
So, and they're not making any more Bitcoin. That's one of my favorite things to say. I mean, this isn't like a financial market. The one thing, even though it's acting like a stock, they're not making any more. So, but on this light volume, and it's just moving steadily higher. It's not really a headline. Um, so I really like this market.
So it says, has Bitcoin topped out? I don't think so. I actually think it's just getting started. Uh, this next leg up. Let's see if we can take out these highs, right? We still, as good as it looks, we still need to take out that high. But I don't know that I would call this, action that looks like it topped out yet, right? Kind of looks like it's going to go test to see whether or not buyers are truly convinced about it. This looks pretty good. It
Yeah.
looks like this.
Coach Jay, you're starting to sound like a robot.
Check, check. Can you hear me now?
It's still kind of muzzled.
Basically, my internet connection.
Uh-oh. I think Nacho got you.
Check, check. Can you guys hear me now?
About the same.
About the same. All right. We might have to end the stream there.
Yeah, I think it's coming from you. Um, it just started a few minutes ago.
All right. Can you hear me now?
There we go.
We're
Welcome
good?
back.
Welcome back. You figured it out. Nacho, you can't get rid of me that fast.
I am not a robot.
Can't get rid of me that fast, Nacho. And I had to close. I was just about to pull it up, Yenny. The trades that I took. I took a long in the S&P. It was a 4 lot long from what price was it? Right around. No, we're here, Coach. You want to field any questions? I'm going to do this, and this is the only time I'm going
Sure.
to do this, and I'm going to do this one time because uh, something my trading mentor told me a long time ago. He showed us how much money he made in a day, one time ever. Right? I was in this guy's classes for years. It had to be about 5 years. I was in his classes, and I only ever knew one time how much money he made. And what he would say to us all the time was, "It doesn't matter how much money I make because if you can't replicate how I got there, then I'm selling you a pipe dream." Right? So whether I make money or not in trading, hopefully the concepts that we share here are what you can use as a trader. He showed me his P&L for the day. It was a lot of money, and I think I kind of understood at that point why he didn't share it, right? He made about 400 grand. He was trading stocks, and it was a I didn't even think that was possible, right? So I saw the amount of money. I'm like, oh shit, like wow. But then at the same time, my brain goes to how far am I away from that, right? Where what would it even take for me to get to that point? And I never had a day like that. So what was the point of seeing it, right? What I could ask him is, how did you? What trades did you take to get to that point, and what was your process? And what I learned from it was the process never changed, right? So I'll show my trades. It wasn't the biggest trading day today. Like I said, I'm up about 1,500 bucks. But I'll show my trades. This is a live account. If it helps for whatever reason, but the concepts are the same. You know what's going to happen sometimes also is I'm going to take trades or I'm going to talk about trades that I don't take. Again, who cares about me? You guys have sometimes taken trades that we've talked about on this show. I wish I was in them. My goal here is not to show you that I'm the best trader. Hopefully, help you guys become a better one. Got any
So,
questions, Coach?
yeah, if this is about trading, let's talk, Nacho. Let's see if you want to share your trading
Oh, yes.
and your results. I don't feel a need for that. Um, Trade your process. But going back to today, oops,
Oh, I hid you, Coach Paul. Where'd you go? There you go. He's back. All right. So here are my executions for today. You can see that this is a live account. This is my name on this account. I'm not going to show you the account balance. Here are my executions here. I was long 4 S&Ps. The average on this was about 58.78. Took most of them off on the way up, had about one here, and then took the rest of the position off right around 59.10s. Nacho, these are all real live trades. Uh, if the markets were open right now, I would put some limit orders in so you could see that this is a live account, but I'm not going to feed into the trolls too much. Um, but there you go, live trades. All right, Coach. What else we got?
um, let's look at. We were talking about soybeans yesterday. Still liking the soybeans. We had a break off that opening, and it turned around on a dime. Um, Still above the 200. on the half hour and the daily. Um, yeah, look where it went to on the half hour. And then we had a J trade,
Good.
and interesting trade. I mean, as fast as it went down, it went up quicker. Um, there's some underlying buying in the soybeans this time of year. Um, it it has a better probability of rallying. So, looking at the daily, um, we look at the 200, and look what we did on the low. We went to the 20. So this market is a buy the dip market. Um, if there's going to be a negotiation with the Chinese, they might just throw in buying some soybeans as a good intention type of trade, and it feels like that. Look at those wicks. The dips are being bought. We're still pretty close to the 200-day moving average. Um, uh, this is a friendly market to the buyers.
Yeah, this this looks pretty good. Kind of wish I reread my notes from yesterday and got in this because this was. I mean, you talked about this one yesterday, Coach Paul. This was on your scouting report, um, and it played out really well. And again, we could make this a regular trading hour chart because what happens overnight is probably not as important. Um, Decent little push lower initially. You look at a shorter time frame, great trade. I might be looking at soybeans tomorrow. Make sure I have the data for that.
Yeah, because it was down a lot. It was down 19 cents,
Right.
which is pretty. I mean, that's $1,000. But look at that J trade, and it was like down elevator, up elevator. Um,
Good market.
which, yeah,
Interesting. Keep an eye on this one. All right, let's get to some of these questions and then we'll get out of here. Coach Jay, with the new API on Topstep, will you program the J trade to give you a signal? Tyson, I've been thinking about that. I'm probably going to talk to Coach Robert. I know JD and Hogue talked to him about automating the 1 minute opening range trade that they take. They might start taking that trade automated next week on Topstep TV. So, stay on the lookout for that. Um, with automating this trade, or the way I think about it, I don't know that I need to automate it to place the trade. I think I need a signal that high volume came in and was higher than the open, and then I can make my decision from there. Um, but yeah, I'm thinking about it for sure. I'm thinking about it for sure.
quick question for GDL: best time to trade soybeans, early in the morning or regular trading hours? If you're talking about early in the morning, early in the at the 8:30 opening, yeah, but not overnight.
Stuff. All right. Anything else we want to talk about before we go, Coach Paul?
Um, no, that's about it.
Awesome. Connor says, "How long have you both been trading?" 13 years for me. Uh, his whole life.
40 years.
Amazing. 40 years. Still coming back every day. Got to be something about this. 40 years.
Well, soybeans for 40 years too.
40
So,
years. All right. We oh, design it, don't worry about it. Yeah, I mean, the numbers, people making big money in these markets, right? Making a couple 100,000. Somebody made $1 million today in the markets. Do we know who that person was? We don't know, but someone did. So it's possible. And I shared, my trading mentor, he shared his P&L for that one day. It was a day during COVID times where he was trading Tesla stock and trading a bunch of shares. He traded with a trade station account that was, you get margin. If you're trading with $5 million in an account or whatever, I don't know how big his account was, but you have margin, so you can trade more shares than you can probably actually own. And you catch the right trade. There's a lot that's possible. Um, and again, I saw that one day, and I didn't need to know more than that, right? I needed to know how he got to making decisions because I was trading with 100 shares, right, and not 20,000. So process over profits. Uh, Everyone's trading with a different account size. Coach Paul, you got anything before we go?
Yeah, one last thing on that. You can only trade the size in your account.
Yep.
So there has to be a process, and that process, and the main part of that process is trading your balance in your account. You don't get to trading that kind of money by luck. So you also have to build the account. So think about that. And that's it. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you all tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your night. Trade well, manage your risk. Talk to you then. We got Coach Hoop doing the class in Discord in the next 10 minutes, and Coach Ray and Coach Vince, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Central Time. Uh, and Deanna, Aaron for the London trade. Of course, Dakota with slow markets. If he does it tonight, I don't know. I know he wasn't feeling well. Dakota, if you're listening, feel better. Tell somebody you love that you love them. Well, tomorrow.